I sat across from my wife in our family attorney's office, watching her itemize everything she wanted in the divorce. The house, the cars, my 401k, the vacation property in Colorado, even my late mother's jewelry collection. Her lawyer slid paper after paper across that mahogany table, each one a knife in my chest. But when we got to the custody section, Amanda looked at our attorney with those cold eyes I'd grown to recognize over the past 6 months and said 5 words that still echo in my mind. He can have the boy. Not our son. Not Ethan. The boy. Like he was a piece of furniture she didn't have room for in her new life. What she didn't know was that I'd been documenting everything for 3 months, and what I discovered would not only save my son, it would expose a fraud so calculated that even her own lawyer would walk away. Before I tell you how I turned the tables, comment below where you're watching from and what time it is there, because what happened next in that attorney's office changed everything. My name is Marcus Webb, and for 12 years I thought I had the perfect marriage. I'm a financial analyst at Henderson & Cross in Austin, Texas, the kind of job that pays well but demands 60-hour weeks and constant travel. Amanda was a marketing consultant who worked from home, which seemed ideal when our son Ethan was born 8 years ago. She could be there for school pickups, doctor appointments, playdates. I could provide the lifestyle she wanted. The 4-bedroom house in Westlake, the Tesla Model X, annual trips to Cabo. Looking back now, I can see how the cracks started showing 2 years ago, but I was too buried in quarterly reports and client presentations to notice. Amanda stopped asking about my day. Our conversations became transactional. Grocery lists, Ethan's soccer schedule, whose turn it was to take the dog to the vet. The intimacy disappeared gradually, like water evaporating from a glass you forget is on the counter. But I told myself this was normal. Marriage evolves. We have a child. We're busy. Everyone goes through rough patches. What I didn't know was that Amanda wasn't going through a rough patch. She was executing a plan. It was a Tuesday evening in March when everything changed. I came home from a client dinner around 9 p.m., loosening my tie as I walked through the front door. The house was quiet. Ethan was asleep upstairs, his night light glowing under his bedroom door. I found Amanda in the kitchen, wine glass in hand, her laptop open on the counter. "We need to talk," she said. No emotion, just a statement of fact. I poured myself a glass of water, thinking this was about Ethan's upcoming birthday party or maybe her mother visiting again. "What's up?" "I want a divorce." The words hung in the air like smoke. I actually laughed at first, thinking it was some kind of dark joke. But when I looked at her face, saw the complete absence of doubt or pain, I realized she was serious. "What?" "Amanda, what are you talking about?" She closed her laptop with a soft click. "I've been unhappy for a long time, Marcus. We're not compatible anymore. I need something different. Someone different. Someone different." The words confirmed what I'd suspected, but refused to believe. "There's someone else. That's not relevant right now." "The hell it isn't." My voice rose, and I caught myself, remembering Ethan sleeping upstairs. "How long?" "It doesn't matter. What matters is that this marriage is over, and we need to figure out how to move forward." She pulled a business card from her purse. "I've already consulted with an attorney. You should do the same. I'd like to handle this as amicably as possible." Amicably. She'd been cheating on me, planning this ambush for God knows how long, and she wanted it to be amicable. "What about Ethan?" I asked, my throat tight. "We'll figure out custody. Kids are resilient. He'll adjust." That night, after Amanda went to bed in the guest room, a boundary line she'd apparently already drawn, I sat in my home office staring at the family photos on my desk. Ethan's first birthday, covered in chocolate cake. Our trip to Disney World when he was 5, his gap-toothed smile under a Mickey Mouse hat. Last Christmas, the 3 of us in matching pajamas that Amanda had insisted on for the holiday card. All of it, apparently, had been a performance. I'm a financial analyst. My job is to find patterns in data, to see what others miss, to identify risks before they become disasters. As I sat there in the dark, I realized I needed to approach this situation the same way I'd approach a complex audit, with evidence, documentation, and strategic planning. Because something in Amanda's eyes when she said, "Someone different," told me this divorce wasn't going to be amicable at all. The next morning, I called in sick to work for the first time in 3 years. After dropping Ethan at school, watching him run toward his second-grade classroom with his Avengers backpack bouncing against his shoulders, I drove straight to the office of Michael Chun, a divorce attorney whose name had come up at a work function 6 months earlier. At the time, a colleague had been going through a brutal custody battle, and Michael's name kept coming up. Aggressive, thorough, doesn't lose. Michael's office was in downtown Austin, all glass and steel with a view of Lady Bird Lake. He was younger than I expected, maybe 45, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. "Mr. Webb, you said on the phone that your wife just asked for a divorce last night, completely out of nowhere." "Well, not completely. There's someone else." Michael nodded, making notes on his legal pad. "And you have a child?" "Ethan. He's 8. What kind of custody arrangement is your wife proposing?" "We haven't gotten that far yet." "But," I hesitated, not wanting to sound paranoid. "She's been different with him lately. Distant. Impatient. It's like she checked out emotionally months ago." That's not uncommon when someone's planning to leave. They begin detaching from the entire family unit, not just the spouse. Michael leaned forward. "Here's what I need you to understand, Marcus. Texas is a community property state, which means everything acquired during the marriage gets split 50-50 unless there are extenuating circumstances. The real battle in cases like yours is usually custody and child support." "I want primary custody," I said immediately, "or at least 50-50. Ethan needs stability, and I can provide that." "Does your wife work?" "She's a marketing consultant. Works from home. Makes decent money. Around $75K a year." "And you?" "I'm a financial analyst. Base salary is $180K, plus bonuses that usually bring it to around $225K. Michael's expression shifted slightly. I recognized that look. I'd seen it in client meetings when someone revealed information that changed the entire equation. "So you're the primary breadwinner by a significant margin." "Yes." "Why does that matter?" "Because in Texas, child support calculations are based on the non-custodial parent's income. If she gets primary custody, you'll be paying substantial support. But there's something else." He tapped his pen against his legal pad. "If she's been having an affair, that's what we call fault grounds for divorce. Texas recognizes both no-fault and fault-based divorce. If we can prove adultery, it can affect property division and potentially custody." "You think she'd lose custody because she had an affair?" "Not automatically, no, but it demonstrates moral character, judgment, fitness as a parent. Especially if the affair affected her ability to parent or if she exposed your son to the affair partner inappropriately." Michael leaned back in his chair. "Marcus, I'm going to be straight with you. Most people going through divorce make one critical mistake. They assume their spouse will be fair, reasonable, honest. They don't document anything until it's too late. From what you're telling me about how your wife dropped this bomb, how calculated it seems, I don't think she's going to play fair. What I need to do? Document everything. I mean everything. Financial records, text messages, emails, her daily routine with your son. Get cameras in your house, one she doesn't know about. Track her movements. Build a case before she knows there's a case to defend against." I felt my stomach turn. "You want me to spy on my wife? I want you to protect your son and your assets. There's a difference." Michael's expression softened slightly. "Look, I know this feels wrong. You're not that kind of person. But I've been doing this for 20 years, and I can tell you with absolute certainty, the spouse who documents wins. The spouse who trusts loses. Which one do you want to be?" That afternoon, I bought 3 hidden cameras from a security equipment store in North Austin. Tiny things, no bigger than a USB charger, with Wi-Fi connectivity and cloud storage. One went in the living room, disguised as a phone charger on the bookshelf. One went in the kitchen, positioned as a Bluetooth speaker. The third went in the garage, where Amanda often took phone calls when she didn't want to be overheard. I also started keeping a detailed journal, just as Michael had instructed. Every interaction with Amanda, every time she was short with Ethan, every unexplained absence. I backed up all our financial records, credit card statements, bank accounts. I took photos of everything in the house, every piece of jewelry, every valuable item, creating a catalog of our marital assets. But what I wasn't prepared for was what those cameras would capture in the first 48 hours. What I would see and hear would transform this from a sad divorce into something much darker. And it would reveal that Amanda's plan involved something far worse than just leaving me. It took exactly 36 hours for the cameras to capture something that made my blood run cold. Thursday evening, I came home from work around 7 p.m. Amanda's car was in the driveway, but she was on her phone in the garage. Through the kitchen window, I could see Ethan sitting alone at the kitchen table, working on homework. No snacks set out for him, no supervision, just a second grader struggling with subtraction by himself. I checked the camera feed on my phone before going inside. The garage camera had picked up Amanda's voice clearly. "No, I told you, I'm handling it. The attorney says we can file next week, and with his travel schedule, I'll easily get primary custody." Pause. Because he's never here, Cameron. He travels 3 days a week minimum. What judge is going to give custody to an absent father? Cameron. So now I had a name. The house is worth $850K. We have about $200K in equity. His 401K has grown to around $600K. Plus, there's the Colorado property, worth maybe $300K. She laughed, a sound I'd once found charming. Honestly, the money's better than I expected. We'll be very comfortable. My hands clench around my phone. She wasn't just leaving. She was calculating the payout like I was a business transaction. Ethan, he'll be fine. Kids adapt. And honestly, Cameron, between you and me, I'm exhausted. I've been the primary parent for 8 years. I want a life again. I want to travel, sleep in on weekends, have adult conversations. Marcus can have primary custody. I'll take every other weekend and holidays. That's standard anyway, and it'll give us freedom. The words hit me like a physical blow. She was going to abandon our son. Not fight for him, not even want him. She was calculating how to keep the assets while offloading the responsibility. I know. I'll still get child support from him since he makes more. The calculator online says probably $2,000 a month. So I'll have financial support without the day-to-day burden. Another pause. No, he doesn't suspect anything about the business. I've been careful. Once the divorce is final and I have my half of everything, the garage door started opening. I watched through the app as Amanda quickly ended the call and walked back into the house, her face transforming into a mask of tired domesticity. I waited 5 minutes before going inside, my mind racing. What business was she talking about? I pulled up our joint bank account on my phone, scanning recent transactions. Everything looked normal. Groceries, gas, Ethan's soccer fees. Then I noticed something odd. For the past 6 months, there had been monthly transfers of $3,000 to an account I didn't recognize. The description just said transfer to savings. But I knew all our accounts, and this wasn't one of them. Inside, I found Ethan still working on homework, his little face scrunched in concentration. Amanda was in the living room, scrolling through her phone. "Hey, buddy," I said, ruffling Ethan's hair. "How was school?" "Good. We had pizza for lunch." He looked up at me with those big brown eyes that were identical to mine. "Dad, can you help me with this problem?" "Mom said she's too busy." I glanced at Amanda, who didn't even look up from her phone. "Of course. Let's take a look." As I helped Ethan with his subtraction problems, explaining borrowing from the tens column, I made a decision. Michael Chin had told me to document everything. But I needed to do more than that. I needed to figure out what business Amanda had been hiding and where that money was going. That night, after Ethan was asleep and Amanda had retreated to the guest room, I did something I'd never done in 12 years of marriage. I opened her laptop. The password was easy. It had always been Ethan's birthday, 031516. What kind of mother uses her child's birthday as a password while planning to abandon him? Her email was open. I started scrolling, my hands shaking slightly. Most of it was mundane, marketing proposals for clients, spam, receipts. Then I found a folder labeled and consulting. Inside were dozens of emails dating back 8 months. Invoices, contracts, payment confirmations. Amanda had started her own consulting business, something called Amanda Nash Consulting, LLC. Nash was her maiden name. But here's what made my stomach drop. The business bank statements showed deposits totaling over $180,000 in 8 months. She was making more than double what she claimed, and none of it was going into our joint accounts. I took photos of everything with my phone, uploading them immediately to a secure cloud account. Bank statements, invoices, articles of incorporation showing she'd registered the LLC 9 months ago. She'd been planning this divorce for at least that long, systematically hiding income and building a secret nest egg. But it got worse. In her text messages, I found a thread with Cameron Hart. The messages went back 6 months, and they weren't just romantic. They were conspiratorial. Cameron, once you're free of him, we can finally move forward with the Denver expansion. Amanda, I know. I'm working on it. The attorney says it'll take 3 to 4 months to finalize. Cameron, and he has no idea about the business? Amanda, none. I've kept it completely separate. All income goes to the consulting account. When we split assets, he'll get half of what he thinks we have. The business stays mine since it's in my name alone. Cameron, you're brilliant. And the kid, Amanda, I'll give him primary custody. Makes me look generous, and honestly, I'm done with the daily grind of parenting. We can have a real life, you and me. I sat back from the laptop, my mind reeling. This wasn't just adultery. This was financial fraud. Amanda had been hiding substantial income throughout our marriage, income that should have been community property in Texas. She'd established a business during our marriage using marital funds and time, and now she was planning to claim it as her separate property, and she was going to abandon our son to do it. The next morning, I forwarded everything to Michael Chun with a subject line, urgent, evidence of financial fraud and hidden assets. He called me within an hour. Marcus, this is huge. She's committed fraud, hidden community income, and possibly violated fiduciary duty laws. This changes everything. I could hear papers rustling on his end. I'm going to need forensic accountants to dig into this business. We need to determine exactly how much marital funds went into establishing it, what marital time she spent building it, and where all this money has gone. What does this mean for the divorce? It means she's not getting anywhere near half of your assets. In fact, depending on what we find, you could be awarded a disproportionate share of the community estate. Texas courts don't look kindly on spouses who hide assets and commit fraud. And custody? Michael paused. Those text messages where she discusses giving up custody and calling parenting the daily grind? That's gold, Marcus. That demonstrates her priorities, her fitness as a parent. Combined with everything else, you're going to get primary custody. I'd bet my license on it. For the first time in a week, I felt something other than despair. I felt hope. But Michael, I said, I need to know something. Can she take this back? If she realizes I know, can she change course? She can try. That's why we don't show our hand until we're in court. We let her file for divorce with her lowball asset disclosure. We let her ask for what she wants. Then we bury her with evidence she didn't know we had. How long until we file? Give me 2 weeks. I'll get forensic accountants on this. We'll build an airtight case. And then we'll file a counterpetition that will make her attorney wish they'd never taken this case. That evening, I did something that I knew would break my heart, but had to be done. I sat down with Ethan while Amanda was at the grocery store. Hey, buddy, can we talk for a minute? He looked up from his tablet, concern already clouding his young face. Kids sense these things. Mom and I are having some problems, I said carefully. We're probably going to live in different houses soon. His eyes immediately filled with tears. Are you getting divorced? The words sounded so adult coming from his 8-year-old mouth. Yeah, buddy, we are. But I need you to know that this has nothing to do with you. This is about Mom and me, not about you. We both love you very much. Even as I said it, I wondered if it was true. Did Amanda love him? How could she love him and be so willing to walk away? Where will I live? His voice was small, scared. We're going to figure that out. But no matter what, you're going to see both of us. And I promise you, I'm going to make sure you're taken care of. Okay. He nodded, wiping his eyes with his sleeve. Dad, is this because Mom has a boyfriend? My heart stopped. What? I heard her on the phone. She was talking to someone named Cameron. She was laughing a lot. Different than how she laughs with you. I pulled him close, fighting back my own tears. It's complicated, bud, but you don't need to worry about that. You just focus on being 8 years old, okay? That night, I added a note to my journal. Ethan aware of mother's affair. Overheard phone conversations. Impacted by her emotional distance. The cameras continued recording. Every day brought new evidence of Amanda's disengagement from Ethan. Twice, she forgot to pick him up from soccer practice. Once she sent him to school without lunch and blamed him for not reminding her. Meanwhile, her phone conversations with Cameron grew more frequent, more detailed about their future plans. "We're thinking Aspen for the holidays," she told him on Wednesday. "A week at the St. Regis. Just adults. God, I can't wait to have that freedom again." Ethan's holidays. She was planning to skip Ethan's holidays. 2 weeks after my first meeting with Michael Chun, I received a document in the mail, Amanda's divorce petition. It had been filed with Travis County Court. As I read through it, I felt my anger crystallize into something sharper, more focused. She was asking for primary custody of Ethan, the house, $850,000, her car, $45,000, half of my 401k, $300,000, half of the Colorado property, $150,000, spousal support of $3,000 per month for 5 years, her disclosed income, $75,000 per year from consulting. Her disclosed assets, joint bank accounts only. No mention of in consulting, LLC. No mention of $180,000 in hidden income. No mention of her secret business accounts. She was committing perjury in her financial disclosures. And I had evidence of every penny. Michael filed our response 3 days later. And when Amanda's attorney called him in a panic after reading it, I knew we'd hit our target. Because our counterpetition didn't just deny her claims. It destroyed them. The cameras ran 24/7 for 3 weeks before Amanda's attorney reached out to Michael requesting an emergency meeting. In that time, I documented 14 instances of Amanda leaving Ethan alone after school while she met with Cameron, 6 phone conversations discussing her plans to minimize custody so she could finally live her life, multiple transfers of funds from and consulting LLC to accounts in Cameron's name, text messages revealing she'd used $30,000 from our home equity line, taken out in both our names, to fund her business without my knowledge, evidence that Cameron Hart was married with 2 kids of his own, and his wife had no idea about the affair, but what broke the case wide open came from an unexpected source, Ethan's school. On a Thursday in mid-April, I got a call from Mrs. Patterson, Ethan's second-grade teacher. "Mr. Webb, I wanted to reach out because we've noticed some changes in Ethan lately. He seems withdrawn, his grades are slipping, and he's been getting into conflicts with other students." My chest tightened. "What kind of conflicts?" "Yesterday, he pushed another student during recess. When I asked him what happened, he said the boy said his mom didn't love him." "Mr. Webb, is everything okay at home?" I explained carefully that Amanda and I were getting divorced. Mrs. Patterson's voice filled with sympathy. "That explains a lot. I want you to know that 3 weeks ago, your wife came to pick Ethan up early. She seemed rushed, distracted. She'd forgotten it was early dismissal day. And when I reminded her about the parent-teacher conference she'd scheduled for that afternoon, she became quite short with me and said she had more important things to do." Ethan heard it. I saw his face fall. "Did she reschedule?" "No." And, Mr. Webb, I want to be delicate here, but as a mandated reporter, I have to tell you that Ethan mentioned his mother has a friend named Cameron who comes to the house sometimes. He said Cameron doesn't like it when he's around, and his mother told him to stay in his room and be quiet when Cameron visits. White-hot rage flooded through me. She'd brought her affair partner into our home, around our son, and made Ethan feel like an inconvenience in his own house. "Mrs. Patterson, would you be willing to document these observations in writing?" "If it helps Ethan, absolutely. He's a sweet boy. He deserves better." That evening, I got a signed statement from Mrs. Patterson detailing her concerns about Amanda's parenting, Ethan's declining performance and emotional state, and Amanda's dismissive attitude towards school involvement. Michael Chun added it to our growing file of evidence. "Marcus," he said during our next meeting, "I've been practicing family law for 22 years. I've never seen a case this one-sided. Your wife has committed financial fraud, parental neglect, adultery, and perjured herself in her financial disclosures. When we walk into that courtroom, she won't just lose. She'll be destroyed. When do we show our hand?" Discovery depositions start next week. That's when her attorney will ask you questions under oath, and we'll ask her questions. That's when she'll discover we know everything. The first deposition was mine. Amanda's attorney, a sharp woman named Patricia Solis, sat across from me in a conference room with a court reporter and recording equipment. Mr. Webb, your wife claims you were an absent father due to your work travel. Is that accurate? I travel for work, yes. Typically Monday through Wednesday, sometimes Thursday. But I'm home every evening I'm in town, and I'm fully present on weekends. Would you say your wife was the primary caregiver for your son? For the first few years, yes. But over the past 2 years, I've noticed her gradually disengaging from parenting responsibilities. Patricia raised an eyebrow. That's a serious allegation. What evidence do you have? Michael slid a binder across the table. We have extensive documentation. Video recordings, teacher statements, time-stamped photographs showing Mr. Webb's involvement versus Mrs. Webb's absences. I watched Patricia's face as she flipped through the pages. Her expression went from skeptical to concerned to outright alarmed. These are surveillance recordings from inside your home, she asked. Yes. Texas is a one-party consent state for recordings. I consented to recording in my own home. And these show my client. Leaving your son alone? Meeting with someone in your home? They show much more than that, Michael said quietly. But we'll let Mrs. Webb's deposition speak for itself. 3 days later, it was Amanda's turn. I wasn't allowed in the room, but Michael video recorded it with everyone's consent. That evening, he showed me the highlights in his office. Amanda sat across from Michael, perfectly composed in a navy suit. She had no idea what was coming. Mrs. Webb, you've disclosed your annual income as $75,000 from consulting work. Is that correct? Yes. And you work from home. Is that right? Yes. Do you have any other sources of income? A pause. Just a fraction of a second too long. No. No business entities registered in your name? No. Michael slid a document across the table. This is the Articles of Incorporation for N Consulting, LLC, registered 9 months ago in your name alone. Can you explain that? I watched Amanda's face drain of color. She looked at her attorney, Patricia, who was clearly seeing this document for the first time and did not look happy. That's just a business structure. It's the same consulting work. So you do have another business entity. And what was the gross income for in consulting last year? I don't have those figures in front of me. Allow me to help. Michael slid another document across. Bank statements for and consulting show deposits totaling $184,000 in the past 8 months alone. That's significantly more than the $75,000 you disclosed. Can you explain the discrepancy? Amanda's carefully constructed composure cracked. I didn't think I needed to disclose the business separately. It's my work income. Except you've been transferring community marital funds into this separate business and failing to disclose the full income to your spouse. In Texas, that's considered fraud and a breach of fiduciary duty between spouses. Patricia Solis put her hand on Amanda's arm, a clear signal to stop talking. We're going to need a recess. But Michael wasn't done. Before we recess, let me ask about custody. Mrs. Webb, you're asking for primary custody of your son. Why is that important to you? Amanda seemed to relax slightly at the change in topic. Because I've been his primary caregiver. I know his routine, his needs, his friends. It's what's best for him. And what's your work schedule like now that your consulting business is so successful? I work from home. Very flexible. So you be available for school pickups, homework help, attending school events? Of course. Michael pulled out his phone and played an audio clip. Amanda's voice filled the room, crystal clear. I'll give him primary custody. Makes me look generous. And honestly, I'm done with the daily grind of parenting. We can have a real life, you and me. The silence that followed was devastating. Amanda sat frozen, her mouth slightly open. Patricia Solis looked like she wanted to crawl under the table. That's your voice, isn't it? Michael asked calmly. I don't have to answer that. Actually, you do. You're under oath. Is that your voice on that recording discussing giving up custody of your son so you can have a real life with Cameron Hart? Patricia cut in. We need to stop this deposition. Now. Michael leaned back. We can stop. But when we resume, I have recordings totaling over 40 hours of Mrs. Webb discussing her plans to hide assets, abandon her parental responsibilities, and commit financial fraud. I have bank statements, text messages, emails, and sworn statements from teachers and neighbors. So when we come back, Mrs. Webb, you might want to consider whether you really want to continue lying under oath. The video ended. I stared at the blank screen. What happens now? Now we wait. Patricia Solis is a good attorney, and she's not stupid. She knows her client lied to her, committed fraud, and perjured herself in the initial filings. She has two choices: withdraw from the case or try to salvage something from this wreckage. What do you think she'll do? Michael smiled. I think within 48 hours, we'll get a call asking to negotiate a settlement. He was wrong. It took 36 hours. Patricia called Michael's office on a Saturday morning. Michael put her on speaker so I could listen. Michael, my client wants to discuss settlement terms. I'm listening. She's willing to concede primary custody to Mr. Webb. She'll take standard visitation, first, third, and fifth weekends, plus alternating holidays. Child support. A long pause. Given the new information about her income, she agrees to pay $1,800 per month. I nearly fell out of my chair. Amanda will be paying me child support. And the property division? Michael asked. She wants to keep the house and her business. He can have a 401k and the Colorado property. Michael laughed. Actually laughed. Patricia, you can't be serious. Your client hid $180,000 in income, committed fraud, breached fiduciary duty, and you want her to keep the house and the business. The business is her separate property. She built it with marital time, marital funds, and during the marriage. It's community property, and you know it. Here's my counteroffer. Marcus gets primary custody with Amanda having supervised visitation until she can demonstrate consistent, appropriate parenting. Marcus gets the house, the Colorado property, and 70% of the 401k. Amanda keeps her business but pays Marcus $90,000, half of the hidden income she accumulated through fraud. She pays child support of $2,000 per month, and she signs an affidavit admitting to financial fraud, which we'll file with the court. She'll never agree to supervised visitation. Then we'll see her in court, where I'll play those recordings for a judge and request she lose custody entirely based on parental abandonment and fraud. Your call, Patricia. Another long pause. I need to talk to my client. You have 48 hours. After that, the offer expires and we proceed to trial. They called back in 36 hours. Amanda agreed to everything except the supervised visitation. We compromised on therapeutic visitation. Amanda would see Ethan with a family therapist present for the first 3 months to help Ethan process the divorce and his mother's abandonment. The final divorce decree was signed on June 15th, 3 months after Amanda had first asked for a divorce. The terms: I got primary custody of Ethan. Amanda would have him first and third weekends of the month. Amanda paid me $90,000 for hidden marital income. I kept the house, the Colorado property, and 70% of my 401k. Amanda paid $2,100 per month in child support. She kept her business, but had to disclose all income going forward. She admitted in a sworn affidavit to financial fraud and breach of fiduciary duty. But the money, the property, the custody arrangement, none of that was the real victory. The real victory came 3 weeks later. On a Wednesday afternoon in early July, I got a call from Patricia Solis. Her voice was different, less adversarial, more human. Marcus, I wanted to give you a courtesy heads up. Amanda's business partner, Cameron Hart, has filed for bankruptcy, and Consulting LLC is being dissolved. Apparently, he'd been embezzling from his own company, and when his wife discovered the affair, she froze all their joint assets and filed for divorce. The Denver expansion Amanda was planning, it was funded with money Cameron stole. I absorbed this information in silence. Is Amanda implicated? The bankruptcy trustee is investigating. If she knew about the embezzlement or benefited from stolen funds, she could face criminal charges. I just thought you want to know. Why are you telling me this? Patricia sighed. Because I spent 20 years building a reputation on representing my clients zealously. But when I took Amanda's case, she lied to me from day one. She made me look like an idiot in that deposition. I don't represent liars, and I don't appreciate being used. So, I withdrew from her case last week. Who's representing her now? She's pro-SE representing herself. Marcus, between you and me, your son is lucky to have you. What she was planning to do, abandoning him for a con man, it's one of the worst things I've seen in family law. And I've seen some terrible things. After we hung up, I sat in my home office, the same office where I'd first discovered Amanda's betrayal 3 months earlier. The house was quiet. Ethan was at summer camp, learning to kayak and make friendship bracelets. In a few hours, I'd pick him up and we'd go for ice cream, just the two of us. My phone buzzed. A text from Michael Chun. Saw the news about Cameron Hart. Your ex really knows how to pick them. How's the kid? I typed back. He's doing better. Therapy is helping. Thanks for everything. You did the hard work, Marcus. You documented. You protected your son. You won. But sitting there in the afternoon light, I didn't feel like I'd won anything. I'd lost my marriage. My son had lost his mother, or at least a version of her he'd thought existed. What we gained was truth, safety, and a future that wasn't built on lies. That evening, when I picked Ethan up from camp, he ran to me with a keychain he'd made in arts and crafts. 2 stick figures, one tall, and one small with Dad and me spelled out in colorful beads. I made it for you, he said, slightly shy, because it's just us now. I knelt down to his level, holding that keychain like it was made of gold. It's perfect, bud. And yeah, it's just us. But that's pretty great, isn't it? He nodded, then hesitated. Dad, is Mom coming this weekend? Amanda's first official visitation was scheduled for Saturday. After weeks of therapeutic sessions, which she'd attended exactly twice before claiming they were unnecessary, the therapist had cleared her for unsupervised visits. Yes, she is. She's going to pick you up Saturday morning. Okay. His voice was small. Do I have to go? My heart broke. The judge said you do. But buddy, if you're ever uncomfortable, if anything feels wrong, you call me immediately. Deal. Deal. Saturday morning arrived with the kind of perfect Texas summer weather that made you forget how brutal August would be. Ethan was quiet as he packed his overnight bag. Just one night, the decree specified. He moved slowly, carefully folding his favorite pajamas, his stuffed bear that he claimed he was too old for, but still slept with every night. Amanda arrived at 10 a.m. sharp in a car I didn't recognize. A newer BMW, white, probably bought with the money from her business before it collapsed. She looked different, thinner, harder somehow. Or maybe she'd always been hard, and I was just seeing clearly now. Hey, Ethan. Her voice had that forced cheerfulness that kids see right through. Hi, Mom. He didn't move toward her. The awkwardness hung between us all. Finally, Amanda looked at me. I'll have him back tomorrow at 6 p.m. The decree says 5 p.m. Right, 5. She reached for Ethan's hand. He let her take it, but didn't squeeze back. I watched them drive away, my stomach in knots. Michael had assured me that I could request a modification if Amanda proved to be an unfit parent during visitation. I had my phone on loud, ready for Ethan's call if he needed me. It came at 3 p.m., Dad. His voice was trying hard to be brave. Can you come get me? What's wrong, buddy? Mom brought me to Cameron's house. She said we're all going to be a family. But Cameron has kids here, and they're mean to me. And Mom keeps telling me to just deal with it and stop being difficult. White-hot rage flooded through me. The decree specifically stated that Amanda couldn't have Ethan around Cameron Hart until they'd been in a stable relationship for at least 6 months. It had been less than 2 weeks since Cameron's bankruptcy filing. Put your mom on the phone. Shuffling sounds, then Amanda's irritated voice. What, Marcus? The custody decree prohibits you from having Ethan around Cameron Hart. You're in violation. Oh, please. That's ridiculous. Cameron is my partner. Ethan needs to get used to him. No, Amanda. What Ethan needs is for you to follow the court order. I'm coming to get him. What's the address? You can't just take him. It's my visitation time. Watch me. Address. Now. She gave it to me. A house in Cedar Park, about 30 minutes away. I made the drive in 20, my lawyer on speakerphone the entire time. Marcus, this is a clear violation. Michael said. Document everything. Get Ethan, and on Monday we file for a modification. If she's already violating the decree after 2 weeks, the court will not be happy. When I pulled up to the house, I found Ethan sitting on the front steps alone, his overnight bag beside him. My heart shattered. Dad! He ran to me, and I scooped him up even though he was really too big for it now. You okay, bud? Cameron yelled at me. He said I was ruining his weekend. And Mom, his voice broke. Mom said I was being dramatic. Just like you. I carried him to the truck. Amanda came storming out of the house, Cameron behind her. You can't just take him, she yelled. Section 7, paragraph 3 of our custody decree. Neither parent shall expose the minor child to romantic partners until said relationship has been stable for a minimum of 6 months. It's been 2 weeks, Amanda. You're in violation. This is kidnapping. No, this is me protecting our son from your continued bad judgment. See you in court. I drove away with Ethan buckled in the passenger seat, his small hand gripping mine. That night, after Ethan was asleep, I sat down and did something I hadn't done in months. I cried, not for my failed marriage, that ship had sailed, but for my son, who'd done nothing to deserve a mother who saw him as an inconvenience, an obstacle to the life she wanted. Monday morning, Michael filed an emergency motion to modify the custody order. By Wednesday, we had a hearing scheduled. The hearing was held in Judge Catherine Morrison's courtroom on a sweltering Friday in mid-July. I'd been in this courtroom once before, during the divorce proceeding. Judge Morrison was known for being no-nonsense and especially protective of children's interests. Amanda showed up without an attorney, dressed in a pantsuit that looked expensive but couldn't hide the desperation in her eyes. Cameron wasn't with her. Smart move on someone's part. Judge Morrison reviewed the emergency motion before looking up at Amanda over her reading glasses. Mrs. Nash, Amanda had taken back her maiden name. You're here pro se? Yes, Your Honor. I can't afford an attorney right now. I see. Mr. Webb is asking for a modification of the custody order based on your violation of the romantic partner provision and evidence of continued parental unfitness. What do you have to say? Amanda launched into a speech about how I was being controlling, how I was trying to poison Ethan against her, how she deserved to have a relationship and move on with her life. Judge Morrison listened impassively, then turned to me. Mr. Webb, what evidence do you have? Michael stood. Your Honor, we have Mr. Webb's sworn testimony that when he picked up the minor child during Mrs. Nash's designated visitation, the child was at the home of Cameron Hart, in violation of the decree. We also have a child's statement that he was uncomfortable and requested to be picked up early. Where is the child now? At home with his grandmother, Your Honor. We didn't want him to have to testify if possible. Judge Morrison nodded. Mrs. Nash, did you take Ethan to Mr. Hart's residence during your visitation? Amanda hesitated, and I could see her calculating whether to lie. Finally, yes. But Cameron is my partner. Ethan needs to adjust. The decree is clear, Judge Morrison interrupted. The 6-month provision exists to protect children from being introduced to a parade of romantic partners during what is already a traumatic time. You violated that provision after just 2 weeks. That demonstrates either a fundamental misunderstanding of your obligations or a willful disregard for the court's order. Which is it? I just think the rule is unfair. Your opinion on the fairness of court orders is irrelevant. You're required to follow them. She turned her notes. I'm also seeing in the case file that you admitted during the divorce, proceeding to planning to relinquish primary custody because you were done with the daily grind of parenting. Is that accurate? Amanda's face flushed red. That was taken out of context. How so? I just meant that I wanted more balance in my life. Every parent feels overwhelmed sometimes. Mrs. Nash, I've been a family court judge for 18 years. I know the difference between a parent needing support and a parent who views their child as a burden. The evidence in this case suggests the latter. Judge Morrison looked at her calendar. Here's what's going to happen. Custody will remain with Mr. Webb. Your visitation is hereby suspended pending completion of a parenting capacity evaluation. You'll meet with Dr. Sarah Richardson, a court-appointed psychologist. She'll assess your parenting abilities and make recommendations. Until that evaluation is complete, you'll have supervised visitation only twice a month for 4 hours. Your Honor, that's not fair. He's my son, and yet you brought him to your boyfriend's house in violation of a court order, exposing him to a situation that made him uncomfortable enough to call his father for rescue. That doesn't demonstrate good parental judgment. She signed an order. The evaluation will take approximately 2 months. We'll reconvene after Dr. Richardson files her report. Mr. Webb, please provide your attorney's contact information to the court for scheduling. Amanda stood there, stunned. As we left the courtroom, I heard her on her phone. Cameron, I need money for an attorney. They're taking my son away. But Cameron Hart, it turned out, had problems of his own. His bankruptcy case had revealed embezzlement from his former employer to the tune of $400,000. Federal charges were pending. He wasn't in any position to help anyone. 2 weeks later, I got a call from Dr. Richardson's office to schedule Ethan's portion of the evaluation. The psychologist wanted to interview him about his relationship with both parents. Dad, do I have to talk to her about Mom? Ethan asked on the drive to her office. You just have to be honest, buddy. Tell her how you feel. Dr. Richardson's job is to help make sure you're safe and happy. The interview lasted an hour. When Dr. Richardson brought Ethan back to the waiting room, she asked if she could speak with me privately. In her office, she pulled out her notes. Mr. Webb, I need to be straightforward with you. Ethan demonstrates significant anxiety around his mother. When I asked him about spending time with her, his stress responses were elevated, increased heart rate, fidgeting, avoidance language. He told me that he loves his mom, but doesn't feel safe with her because she cares more about Cameron than me. That's heartbreaking. It is. And it's also diagnostic. Children Ethan's age are remarkably perceptive. They know when they're a priority and when they're not. She paused. He also told me something concerning. He said that his mother told him he was the reason she and Cameron can't be happy. That's an inappropriate emotional burden to place on a child. It's a form of psychological abuse. My hands clenched. What happens now? I'll complete my evaluation of your ex-wife next week. Based on what I've seen so far, I'll be recommending that custody remain with you and that her visitation continue to be supervised until she completes parenting classes and demonstrates consistent, child-centered behavior. Will she do that? Dr. Richardson gave me a sad smile. In my experience, Mr. Webb, parents either get it or they don't. The ones who view their children as obstacles rarely change. But we give them the opportunity, and then we document the results. The final evaluation report landed on Judge Morrison's desk 6 weeks later. I read it in Michael's office, my coffee going cold as I absorbed Dr. Richardson's findings. Amanda Nash demonstrates limited insight into her child's emotional needs and prioritizes her romantic relationship over her parental responsibilities. She minimizes her role in causing Ethan emotional distress and shows little capacity for child-centered decision-making. Ethan exhibits anxiety and stress responses when discussing time with his mother. Recommendation: primary custody remain with father. Mother's visitation to be supervised monthly until she completes 40 hours of parenting education and demonstrates consistent, appropriate co-parenting for a minimum of 6 months. She'll appeal, I said quietly. Michael shook his head. With what money? Her business collapsed with Cameron's bankruptcy. She's working retail now, according to her financial disclosure. She can't afford an appeal. So this is it. This is it. You won, Marcus. Full custody, supervised visitation only, and a court record that will follow her in any future custody disputes. But it didn't feel like winning. It felt like Ethan had lost a mother, and no custody arrangement could fix that. 3 months after Judge Morrison's final ruling, I stood in my kitchen making Ethan's lunch for school. Turkey sandwich, apple slices, those little pretzels he liked. The same lunch I'd made hundreds of times, but now it meant something different. This was my responsibility. Not shared, not traded off on weekends, mine. Ethan came downstairs in his Longhorns t-shirt, his hair sticking up in 3 different directions. Dad, it's crazy hair day at school. Can you help me? I looked at his hopeful face and realized I had no idea how to style hair into intentionally crazy patterns. This was the kind of thing Amanda would have excelled at. The creative, fun mom stuff? Absolutely. Let's get creative. 20 minutes and half a bottle of gel later, Ethan's hair was spiked into something that vaguely resembled a porcupine. He grinned at himself in the mirror. I look awesome. You really do. Come on, let's get breakfast. As we sat at the kitchen table, Ethan eating his cereal and chattering about his day ahead, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. This is Amanda. I know I'm not supposed to contact you directly, but I need you to know something. I'm starting those parenting classes next week. I want to see Ethan again. I want to fix this. I stared at the message. Part of me wanted to ignore it, to let the lawyers handle everything. But there was something in the tone, not entitled or demanding like before, but almost humble. I showed it to Michael later that day. Technically, she's violating the no-contact provision unless it's about emergencies or scheduling through me, he said. Do you want me to file a motion? No. Let's see if she actually follows through with the classes first. Over the next 2 months, Amanda did something I never expected. She showed up every single parenting class, every single supervised visitation. The supervisor's reports that came to Michael's office showed a gradual shift. She was on time. She brought activities for Ethan. She listened when he talked instead of checking her phone. What happened to Cameron Hart? I asked Michael during one of our check-ins. Federal prison. 3 years for embezzlement. His ex-wife got everything in their divorce. Last I heard, Amanda hasn't contacted him since his sentencing. Maybe losing everything. Her business, her boyfriend, unsupervised access to her son had finally woken her up. Or maybe she'd just gotten better at performing. Time would tell. In December, Dr. Richardson recommended increasing Amanda's visitation to unsupervised day visits based on her completion of parenting classes and consistent appropriate behavior during supervised time. What do you think? Michael asked me. I thought about Ethan, who'd asked me just last week if Mom would be at his Christmas concert. Let's do graduated visits. A few hours at first, then full days. If she stays consistent, we can talk about overnights next summer. Judge Morrison approved the modified schedule. Amanda would have Ethan every other Sunday from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. The first unsupervised visit was a Sunday in mid-December. I watched Amanda pull up in a modest Honda Civic, a far cry from the BMW she'd been driving 6 months earlier. She walked to the door, and for the first time in a year, she looked me in the eye. Thank you for giving me this chance. It's not for you. It's for Ethan. I know I messed up everything. The business, Cameron, the way I treated both of you. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I just want to be a better mom. Ethan came to the door with his backpack. Hi, Mom. Hey, sweetie. I thought we could go to the Science Museum today, and maybe get hot chocolate after. His face lit up. The Science Museum was his favorite place. Can I, Dad? Of course. Have fun. Text me if you need anything. I watched them drive away together. And for the first time since this nightmare began, I felt something other than anger or betrayal when I looked at Amanda. I felt hope, not for our relationship. That was dead and buried. But hope that maybe, somehow, Ethan could have a mother again. It's been 2 years since Amanda asked for a divorce. 2 years since I installed those hidden cameras and discovered the depth of her betrayal. 2 years since I fought the hardest battle of my life, not for money or property, but for my son. Ethan is 10 now. He's doing well in school, playing soccer, learning guitar. He sees a therapist once a month, processing the trauma of those early days. He spends every other weekend with Amanda now, and most of the time it goes okay. Amanda got remarried last year to a man named David who owns a small contracting business. From what Ethan tells me, David is kind, patient, good with kids. Amanda seems genuinely happy in a way I never saw during our marriage. Maybe she needed to lose everything to figure out what actually mattered. I haven't remarried, haven't even really dated. My focus has been on Ethan, on building a life that's stable and secure. But I'm not bitter. I'm grateful. Grateful that I documented everything. Grateful that I had the resources to hire a good attorney. Grateful that the system, for once, worked the way it was supposed to. But mostly, I'm grateful for the lesson that experience taught me. Trust your instincts. When something feels wrong, investigate. Don't assume the best. Don't wait for the situation to resolve itself. If I hadn't installed those cameras, if I hadn't started documenting, Amanda's initial plan would have worked. I would have been the absent father working too much to fight for custody. She would have gotten the house, half my retirement, and primary custody while planning to abandon Ethan as soon as the ink dried on the divorce decree. The $180,000 she hid would have disappeared into her separate accounts. The affair would have been denied. The neglect would have been my word against hers. But I didn't wait. I didn't trust. I investigated, documented, and fought. Last month, I was asked to speak at a men's divorce support group. 30 guys, all going through various stages of separation and divorce, all looking shell-shocked and defeated. My ex is claiming I'm abusive, one man said. I've never touched her, but she's got her friends backing her up. What do I do? Document everything, I told him. Text messages, emails, Ring doorbell footage if you have it. Record every interaction you can legally record. Because the person you married is gone. You're dealing with an adversary now, and you need to treat it like warfare. Another man raised his hand. She's threatening to move 3 states away with my kids. Says Texas law lets her relocate for a job opportunity. Get an attorney. Today, Texas law requires the relocating parent to provide notice and prove the move is in the child's best interest. But you have to fight it. You have to show up. After the meeting, several men came up to me. How did you win? Everyone says men don't win in family court. Men don't win when they don't fight. When they trust their ex to be fair. When they show up to court without evidence, without documentation, without a strategy. I looked at each of them. The system isn't perfect. It's biased in some ways, especially about parenting. But the system rewards evidence. So gather evidence. Be better documented. Be more prepared. Make it impossible for a judge to rule against you. One younger guy, maybe 28, with tears in his eyes, she's already turning my daughter against me, telling her I don't love her, that I abandoned them. What do I do about that? Parental alienation is real, and it's psychological abuse. Document every instance. Record your child saying these things if possible. Get your kid in therapy with someone who specializes in divorce and custody issues. And above all, keep showing up. Keep being present. Keep being the stable, loving parent. Because kids are smart. Eventually, they figure out who actually cares. Standing there, sharing my story with men who were living through their own nightmares, I realized something. Amanda's betrayal didn't just hurt me. It taught me. It made me stronger, more aware, more protective of what matters. Would I want to go through it again? Never. Would I trade the lessons I learned? Not for anything. Last week, Ethan came home from Amanda's house and asked me a question that stopped me in my tracks. Dad, why did you and Mom get divorced? He was 10 now, old enough to understand more than the simple "we weren't happy" explanation I'd given him when he was 8. I thought about lying, softening it, protecting Amanda. But I learned over the past 2 years that kids deserve truth. Age-appropriate truth, but truth. Your mom made some choices that hurt our family. She wasn't honest about some important things, and she forgot for a while that being your mom was supposed to be the most important thing in her life. But she's better now, right? I looked at his hopeful face. Yeah, buddy, she's doing better. People can change if they want it badly enough. Did you try to keep her? Did you fight for her to stay? No, I fought for you. That was the only fight that mattered. He nodded slowly, processing. I'm glad you did. Me too, bud. Me too. That night, after Ethan went to bed, I sat in my office and pulled up the old surveillance recordings. I kept them all, stored securely in the cloud, in case we ever needed them for a custody dispute. But as I scrolled through the files, hours and hours of evidence of Amanda's betrayal, I realized I didn't need them anymore. The legal battle was over. The custody arrangement was stable. Ethan was safe and thriving. I selected all the files and moved them to a folder labeled Archive. Not deleted, I'm too cautious for that, but archived. Put away. No longer the focus of my present. Because here's what I've learned about revenge. The best revenge isn't hurting the person who hurt you. It's building something so good, so stable, so full of love that their betrayal becomes irrelevant. Amanda wanted everything in the divorce except our son. She got her divorce. She lost everything that mattered. And I got Ethan. In the end, I won. Not because a judge ruled in my favor. Not because Amanda's life fell apart. But because every morning I wake up and make my son breakfast. Because I'm there for homework and soccer practice and late night talks about life. Because when Ethan thinks about who was there for him when it mattered most, the answer is clear. If you're going through something similar, if you're facing a divorce where your ex seems willing to sacrifice your children for their own convenience, here's what I want you to know. Document everything. Not tomorrow, not next week. Today. Every text message, every missed pickup, every inappropriate introduction to a new partner. Buy security cameras. Keep a detailed journal. Screenshot financial records. The documentation you gather today becomes the evidence that protects your children tomorrow. Hire the best attorney you can afford. This isn't the place to cut corners or represent yourself. A good family law attorney knows the judges, knows the system, knows how to present evidence in a way that wins. Focus on the children, not on punishing your ex, not on getting even, but on protecting your kids. Every decision, every action, every dollar spent should be about giving your children the best possible outcome. Be patient. These cases take time. Months, sometimes years. But if you're fighting for your kids, it's worth every second of that time. Stay strong. There will be days when you want to give up, when the legal fees and emotional toll feel like too much. Those are the days you need to remember why you're fighting. And finally, believe in justice. The system isn't perfect, but it works more often than it fails. If you have truth and evidence on your side, if you're truly the better parent, the courts will see it. 2 years ago, I sat in my car outside an attorney's office, terrified of what I was about to face. I thought my life was ending. I thought I'd lost everything that mattered. I was wrong. I didn't lose anything. I gained clarity. I gained strength. I gained an unbreakable bond with my son. Amanda wanted everything in the divorce except Ethan. She got exactly what she asked for, and I got exactly what I fought for. In the end, that's all the revenge I needed. Your turn. If this story resonated with you, drop a comment below. Have you been through a difficult divorce or custody battle? What advice would you give to someone just starting that journey? And don't forget to share where you're watching from. I want to know who's out there fighting the good fight for their kids. Remember, the best fathers aren't the ones who never face adversity. They're the ones who face it and refuse to quit. Subscribe to this channel for more real-life stories about overcoming betrayal, protecting your family, and winning when the odds are stacked against you. Because these aren't just stories, they're battle plans for the fights that matter most. Stay strong out there.